I hope you like the information I'm giving you. Maybe you can try it. Maybe it's for you. Maybe it helps your player. Coach Clay here. I want to discuss today the path that the bat takes to the ball in a really good, fundamentally sound swing. When we talk about bat path, what we're talking about is the path, the line that bat takes from when I start my swing to contact, through, all the way to my finish. I like to focus on the simplest bat path that we should take. You're going to see this simple, basic bat path that we talk about today in the youngest players that are having success, all the way to professional players that are having success. When we talk bat path, we are going to stride, get onto that front foot, and this is where the action begins. As I start to transfer my weight and swing, we can pretend the bat, the sweet spot of this bat, is an airplane. And we want to land that airplane on the runway behind contact and then stay on that runway through contact to the end of our arms. And once our bat can go no further and my arms are at extension, we're just going to let it finish where it wants to finish. Now, you can go online and find all sorts of spirited, passionate debates on the angle in which the bat should go through contact. Should it exactly match the fastball from a 6'2" over-the-top pitcher? Should we be optimally trying for a certain degree of angle? So if you took your protractor from 0 degrees and just lifted that protractor up to 90 degrees, what angle should that bat be coming through contact? In essence, what angle should we set our runway? Well, a lot of people that worry about that don't need to worry about that. If you are in the big leagues, they may deep dive into these slight angle variations of where our runway sits. And that's fine. These guys are the best hitters in the world. Little small changes will mean a lot at that level. But I've found I've had the most success with players from starting out to players heading off to college, talking about the airplane, getting to the runway behind contact, and then staying on the runway as long as possible. So grabbing some home run swings from this year's playoffs, you can see all these guys get on that runway behind contact and stay on it as long as possible. The one-hand finish helps increase the length of that runway, the extension, keeping that right palm up. And even though the runways are slightly elevated, they are hitting big home runs. The bat tends to want to start coming up naturally on its own. So the feeling of landing and staying on the runway will produce a bat path very similar to these guys. How can we create that good bat path where our sweet spot is that airplane coming short, landing behind contact, and staying through? One good tip that I use is to tell players to feel like they have a rock in their hand that looks like a $50, and they're trying to skip that rock off the water out in front of them. From their ear, they can skip that rock. And what that feeling is our right palm, or our top hand, if you're left-handed, is your left hand. Your top hand, palm, stays up and even might turn slightly out depending on where you're hitting that ball. So, get players in that good hitting position with their airplane up behind that ear, and then when they swing, try to get them to bring the airplane down onto the runway and keep that bat through contact to the end of the runway before we finish high. Now, some people are worried that if we give a hitter a cue of landing that airplane down, that bat's just going to continue down. And it can be a legitimate worry. Ways to make sure that once we get behind contact, we're level and out through is 1, to focus on the top hand staying up to skip that rock. 2, make sure we keep that head back behind contact. The danger you run into with the vast majority of players is this barrel wants to go down every moment of our swing. If we're sitting in our stance and we let go of this bat, the barrel will go down. If we're swinging and we're not worried about bringing that airplane short and down to the runway, the barrel's going to go down. The more aggressive we get with our swing, the faster and more aggressive our bat will go down. So if we can think about skipping that rock, right? If we can think about keeping that airplane up behind my ear, then when I swing with my head behind the ball, palm up, I should stay through contact. We want to encourage players to hit line drives. If you're in a batting cage, that's halfway up the cage or higher, and we want to get underspin. So as we get to the runway, we want to get through the middle or the bottom half of that ball and let it take off. A couple pitfalls, especially with our youngest players, and where this airplane analogy will really pay dividends. If you're doing side toss, front toss, or even throwing live batting practice, you want to throw a bad pitch or fake them out and not throw it all, and you're going to see how the airplane reacts. If they react this way and crash their airplane, we can make them aware of this, and anytime we fake them out, we can have them check it. And sometimes even the youngest players, 4, 5, 6 years old, can learn to keep that barrel quiet as they load and lift, and if they're faked out, to keep that airplane up. With some of these high school pitchers now throwing well into 90 miles an hour plus, letting that airplane get too low, too quick, it's impossible for these guys to get back up to the runway and make contact. I feel like the vast majority of players have trouble letting their barrel go down too far too fast, and very few players have trouble staying too steep and going through the runway. But there are fixes either way, right? If you do get that rare player that just cannot level out onto the runway, really focus on keeping the hands close. That's another way to get the barrel on the runway and to stay on the runway, and also not rolling that top hand. I hope you like the information I'm giving you. Maybe you can try it. Maybe it's for you. Maybe it helps your player. Maybe it gives you a different perspective on hitting. You don't have to 100% agree, but I like sharing information. I like taking information in from others, and I'm hoping we can keep our players becoming the best hitters that they can be together. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, and hopefully we'll see you down the road.